Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. I'm delighted today to be joined by a very good friend of Talent Smart and Technofresh, Dimitrios. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us today.
Thank you very much, Phil, for the invitation. My pleasure to be here.
It's a delight, and I know we've talked a lot before we started recording, so keen to explore and for everyone to hear a little bit more about and your insights into security in particular. I guess the starting point, Timmy, would be, I'd like to know, tell me a little bit more about this improvement mindset that you're so passionate about.
Very good way to start the discussion. Improvement mindset. Most of the organizations, when it comes to security, they try to follow the traditional approach, and the traditional approach is driven by compliance mindset. They try to meet the minimum requirement and satisfy the expectations the regulators set for the different sectors. The problem with this approach is that compliance helps us address the problems of the past with a certain degree of confidence. Given we are talking about security, which is one of the most important types of risk, non-financial types of risk for most of the organizations, heavily associated with technology. And we see how technologies evolve at a frenetic pace. We cannot only rely on this compliance mindset approach. With improvement mindset, in reality, what we are saying is that, yes, compliance is important, but it cannot be the end goal. It should be a byproduct of trying to get better on a daily basis. Trying to get better in order to stay on top of all the things that are happening and expose the organization and the critical products and services to threats.
And would you say that is it similar to, you know, in psychology they talk about growth mindset, which is that constant striving for improvement, that constant striving to be better and actually looking to learn and constantly evolve? Is that a sort of a comparative?
Definitely it is. As we say for security, security is a never-ending game. The adversaries will carry on developing their skill sets. They try to get better on a daily basis, and I think it's one way for us to be able to protect against such an approach. We have to do the same. So we have to stay abreast of all the technological changes, but we also need to understand how the business evolves, because it is not only the technology that exposes us to new threats or risks, but also the business transformation that organizations undertake in order to remain relevant for their customers, innovate, and introduce new products and services.
And in terms of, like, I suppose, business-wide, the other expression that I've heard you use is sort of enterprise-wide mindset. Just for my purpose, what do you mean by an enterprise-wide mindset?
Enterprise-wide, I think it is the side effect of having spent many years as an enterprise security architect. Quite often, security departments are structured following very much the vertical or siloed mentality. They are comprised of security teams that are specialists in a particular domain of the security spectrum. They develop capabilities for those SME teams within the security division without truly appreciating how they need the help from other SMEs, either within security or even outside security. So the enterprise-wide view is the horizontal view. It allows us to not only rely on strong SMEs, but also be in a position to know how we are going to combine all the value, all the services and the capabilities that those teams have in order to provide a commensurate level of protection for the organization. And that is very important because the organization, despite being one entity, has different needs. As we move from one side of the business to another, we see variations. And as such, we need to acknowledge this idiosyncrasy, develop the right skill set, capabilities, to address their unique needs in a bespoke way instead of trying to enforce the one-size-fits-all.
Gotcha. No, that's brilliant. And I guess just from what you said earlier, the compliance mindset versus the improvement mindset. If you're an organization that's currently pursuing a very much a compliance type of mindset or compliance type of agenda, does that open up risks? Is there risks to a business by doing that?
Good question. So there will always be risks with a compliance or an improvement mindset. The main differentiator between the two is that by being compliant, it means that we are meeting the minimum requirements to operate in a particular area, in a particular sector. This, at the same time, can be used as evidence that by meeting the minimum requirements, it means that we are probably amongst the organization that are the lowest hanging fruit. So right. If we stop there and we have done only what the regulators or the legislation expect us to do, then we will be one of the easiest targets in comparison with another organization who has not stopped only at that minimum requirement, but they have done something extra. And this is very important because the adversaries most of the time identify targets based on a P&L approach. I'm not saying that they are lazy, but if they can, let's say, achieve their target without putting that much effort, then they will choose the path of least resistance. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to be open to attacks that can be treated as quite basic and fundamental. So we have to make sure that our security posture is definitely better than what those minimum requirements expect us to be.
So in a compliance mindset, is it fair to say that there's a perception of a finish line? So you get to the finish line and you stop. Whereas with an improvement mindset, you keep going and you always look to, continue to, validate and improve, hence the name. Whereas with a compliance mindset, it's getting to that minimum requirement, ticking the box, and then sort of sitting back and assuming that the job is done.
You're spot on. The only way compliance may help us get better is if we are not compliant today, and therefore we need to do something in order to improve. and meet that requirement. The problem starts from when we achieve that compliance. So once we are compliant, what is left? We should be waiting for the regulator to update their expectations so that we can then do something. As you understand, this cannot truly support most of the organizations, given that, as we see these days, they are aggressively reinventing their business models. They are trying to become more agile. They are trying to utilize cloud, new technologies, and as such, we should also reinvent ourselves to a certain extent. And that's why with the improvement mindset, we recognize that there is no, let's say, end goal. Or let me paraphrase, the end goal is that we should stay on top of the changes. And as the saying goes, the only constant is change. And the same applies for us, the security professionals.
And I know one of the other areas you're really passionate about is the changing perception of security within organizations. And that improvement mindset will definitely go a long way toward doing that. Well, what are the sort of components in your view to successfully moving the perception of security within your organization as more of an enabler, a business partner, profit center, rather than simply a sort of a cost and a police?
We should find ways to move away from our comfort zone, which is technology, and of course security, and try to understand better what are we trying to solve, try to understand better the business context. It is very important to, of course, rely on a strong technical background, but also demonstrate that we do possess the soft skills together with a business acumen so that we can have an honest discussion with our business counterparts, trying to understand their challenges so that we can provide a commensurate level of assurance. Quite often, we prescribe controls. We advise the organization to invest on security mechanisms based on our previous experiences in different organizations, without truly understanding the unique requirements of the organization that we are currently working for. And as such, quite often, we see security investments failing to make any return that can be actually backed by actuarial data. And this, of course, creates friction between business and security divisions, explains the quite short time that security professionals at senior levels spend within end clients before they are moving on to their next role, and fails to underpin the execution of the business strategy.
And how do you get what are the keys to getting people on board or getting people to buy into this form of a sort of a security division? Where do you start? So if I'm a CISO, mm-hmm. or I'm a security director, or head of IT security or cybersec or whatever, how do I go about making the changes? Who do I approach first to change the perception and get people bought in and get them get more involved and get a better seat at the table, I guess, is a sort of where I'm going.
I don't think it is a matter of who, but more of a how. It is not that we need to find the right champion. Of course, it helps. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to approach the problem from a different angle. And we need to demonstrate that we are not the business prevention unit. We are not trying to enforce a long list of non-functional requirements on every single initiative the business wants to discuss with us. And we therefore need to understand exactly what the actual goal is. So in order to do that, we need to demonstrate to our business stakeholders that we are in a position to help them move forward with their plans in a timely manner. So time is important. If we ask them to delay those initiatives, it will be catastrophic for the relationship that we are trying to build and portray ourselves as a value enabler. You don't see very much value if people are stopping you from doing the things that you want to do. And at the same time, we need to also work with them in order to limit the friction they experience every time they interact with security. And in order to do that, security divisions and chief information security officers should start investing in those capabilities that will allow us to be a little bit more proactive instead of trying to react on anything that will land on our plate, which, if I want to be honest with you, is mostly the case for all the organizations that we see. And very few organizations are capable of leaning forward, as the term is, trying to foresee things and make sure that they have a security posture that is fit for purpose to support the business needs.
And if you're a CISO today, or you're advising, let's say there's a room of CISOs, or the CISOs watching this, where's the starting point? How do you start to make a change? Is there an easy 1, 2, 3 steps to do here, or if you're going to make a change today, where's your starting point?
Depending on the maturity of the organization, the starting point varies. If your house is on fire, it is pointless to say that your starting point is to have a sound strategy in place. No one is going to listen about your future plans unless you put your house in order. Assuming that your house is in order, then of course you should work closely with business in order to devise a strategy that acknowledges their challenges and devises a roadmap that ensures that the security will have all the necessary capabilities in place to support those initiatives when the time comes. And so it is a difficult question to answer for all the different organizations. But as we know, we should strike a fine balance between operational needs that need to be addressed, as well as strategic vision and a clear communication plan, so that not only we do the right things, but we find ways to emphatically communicate the message across the organization. And the communication is a very important parameter here, because it will make sure that people within the organization will acknowledge what we are trying to do as security division. If our vision is appealing, they will come on board, they will work with us, and that, of course, will pay dividends to the level of protection that the whole organization is going to enjoy.
That's perfect. Well, that's a brilliant place to pause for episode 1. I know you're going to stay with us, and we're going to record episode 2. For those who want to roll forward, that'll be released in a couple of weeks, or for if you're watching it on catch up or in a few weeks' time, then it'll be both will be available at the same time. For now, Dimi, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I really appreciate recording episode 1. And episode 2, you're going to cover resilience, which I'm really looking forward to as well, in terms of making an organization more resilient. But for the time being, thank you so much, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you.